As a proud mood reader, traditional TBRs usually leave me stressed out. But when I found StoryGraph, it completely changed everything for me, how I track my reads, discover new ones, and enjoy my books. So let me go ahead and tell you why I'm so obsessed. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast contains mature content intended for adult audiences only. Alicia here. You voted on this week's podcast episode, and I'm so excited to get into it because I could literally rave about StoryGraph for quite some time. I promise I'm not going to go wild with this one because I have some type of postnasal drip cough thing going on, and I promise I will cut all of my coughing out of the episode, but it's a bit of a struggle today. Let's go ahead and get into it. What is StoryGraph? StoryGraph is a tracker for reading. Think of it like your Goodreads. And I know a lot of us, we started on Goodreads. That works well, especially for those of us who read on Kindle. I also recently discovered someone who uses a spreadsheet to track all of their reads. I used to do that, but that is so 2022 of me. And when I discovered Goodreads, my dear friend Nicole, who co-hosted the We Read Smut Instagram account with me, when she told me about it, I was like super skeptical because I'm not someone who likes to change platforms. I do not like to have to start over. None of that is appealing to me. But she kept saying, Alicia, you got to try it. You got to try it. And so at the beginning of 2023, I decided, okay, let's give this a shot. They made it super easy to transfer all of my information over from Goodreads. And in preparation of this, I had to go back to Goodreads. I have not been back on Goodreads in a very long time. Yes, some of my Kindle stuff still shows up over there, so it looks like I'm active. I'm not, I promise. But let's go ahead and get into some of the reasons why I love StoryGraph and what you can expect that are similar to Goodreads, and then some things that are a little different. The basics are all covered, of course. We've got the logging start date, the end date, the number of pages, but I like a lot more than just that. StoryGraph also has the option to pause reading a book, which I am obsessed with. I have a few books on pause right now. They're books that I maybe started, usually ARCs, advanced reader copies of books, where I started the book and then I was like, actually, I know I'm not going to give this book the justice that it deserves because I'm not in the mood to read it right now. That is a struggle for me, especially as a mood reader. And so being able to pause a book and come back to it is so incredibly important for me as a reader. The home screen is super clean and clear. They make it really easy to figure out where you're going. I find that I use Android. I find that the Android app works really well also, but I can easily toggle between working on my computer and opening it up on my browser or working on my app, and it's very easily and very similar in those regards. They have a mood and pacing and a genre tag. So I can see really easily if the mood is something that I'm interested in, if I want to go and check out what other people rated the book mood as. I can also see what kind of pacing people thought that it was, and I can see what it tagged it as for the genre. So is it a sci-fi book that is a romance? Is it a contemporary that's a romance? Is it a young adult novel? Because I know I'm probably not going to read those, right? So like being able to very quickly and easily decipher that is so incredibly helpful. Inside the app as well, if I'm at the bookstore and I'm not really sure if I want to buy a book because I've never heard of it before or I don't know who the author is, you can actually scan the code on the back of the book inside of the StoryGraph app, and then it'll pull up the information for that book. And based on what your likes and your preferences are, it'll tell you, hey, this is a book similar to this other book that you liked that you might actually enjoy, and you can turn off these features. They have some AI features, what they call AI features. Honestly, I just think they're not predictive in the way that we think about AI now. It's more of, hey, you like this restaurant, you might like this one as well, kind of algorithms rather than actual AI. But that is a conversation for a whole other day. Anyway, what I love about that is that I can easily know, hey, this story has similar tropes to these other books that I really enjoyed. And so I know I'm going to like it. Or, hey, this has tropes that you've said that you do not want to read at all. So it might not be the best option for you unless you're trying to read outside of your comfort zone right now, which I think is really helpful, especially for me as a mood reader. I have to know a little bit more about what the book's about before I jump in. I am not someone who can jump in blind to a book. It's actually extremely difficult for me to do that. One thing that I really loved about Goodreads when I was using it, and y'all made me have to go back over there and check it out. I did not like it at all. But one thing that I liked about Goodreads that I was very happy to see on StoryGraph is the option of tags. I need my tags. I am tagging books left and right. I actually, instead of adding books to my TBR because I can't handle my TBR, it is the wild, wild west. It's where books go to die, quite honestly, because I'm a mood reader. And so tagging books helps me a lot more because I'm able to say, hey, this is enemies to lovers, or this is friends to lovers, or this is these different tropes. I have the most random ones as well, like slutty little glasses for books where the guy is wearing slutty little glasses. If I'm in the mood for a book like that, then I know exactly which tag to go to, and then I can sift through the books that I've tagged that way to then find the book that I'm looking for or that I'm in the mood for. And so tags was a non-negotiable for me, and thankfully StoryGraph has it, and they make it so easy to find your tags, edit your tags. I also have the option to share my tags and make them public. So I knew that someone was looking for friends to lovers romances, and I said, hey, can I send you my StoryGraph tag and you can check out the books that I have tagged that way? And they were like, yes, please. So then I was able to, here's a quick link, it's public, have fun. And now I'm able to share that information with other people. So I love that. Another thing that I love about StoryGraph is their personalized recommendations. I'm obsessed because it'll say, based on these reads that you recently read, here's some other suggestions that we recommend that you check out. Also, one thing that I'm a little frustrated with, though, on that end, is that if I go to a BIPOC book where maybe the entire cast is a Black cast, I didn't like that when I went to books similar to this, that it gave me white books or white authors, and there wasn't a lot of diversity in those recommendations. And I think that a lot of that has to do with how people use these apps and the fact that the publishing industry is so incredibly whitewashed, pretty much, and how we need more books with more diversity, and we need more people going in and tagging these things accordingly. So that way the algorithms can actually pick up on the fact that, hey, these books are diverse. Another part that I love that you do not see on Goodreads is challenges. I love a good challenge, especially with myself. And so there's challenges where I can say, I want to read this many books in this year. I want to listen to this many minutes on my audiobooks, and I want to read X amount of pages. I can have all that information in there on my yearly challenge. And then I can also, StoryGraph has a ton of personal challenges that you can pick from or join. And then you can also create your own challenge. So I have joined several challenges, ones I've created and ones I have not, like reading 20 books by Black authors in the year, or reading 20 Latinx books by Latinx authors in the year, or reading 12 sapphic romances in the year, right? So I've joined all of these different challenges, and I just find it as a way to really encourage my brain to say, ooh, we have to check that box. And no, I don't think that reading diversely should be a checked box. I already do read extremely diverse, but it's always a good reminder for my brain to give me that little dopamine hit of, yay, we already read a sapphic book this month. Let's go ahead and check that off. So just a little note on that. Another thing that StoryGraph has that at least I didn't see that Goodreads had now, I don't know if they changed this or not, is owned books. If you're like me, you've got your little library behind you. It's behind me if you're watching the video. But you've got your library of physical books or you've got your library of audiobooks. And sometimes it's hard to remember, do I actually already own this book or not? Especially if you're getting up there in the number of books that you own. And so it makes it so easy to scan the code and then mark the book as owned if you want. Or if you're already in the app and you're in your owned books page already, all you have to do is go to the little button that's right there. It's got a barcode and it says add. And then you click that button and you scan the code and it automatically adds it. I see people with those like library, why can't I think of what they're called, like barcode guns? And I'm like, you literally could just use the StoryGraph app and there you go. There's your list. And it already gives you all of the categories and all that stuff. Makes it so much easier. So highly recommend that for keeping track of the books that you already own. I have not gotten into adding the digital books that I own because that amount of books is quite ridiculous at this point. I want to say I'm over 900 books digitally owned, and that just feels like a lot of work to backlog, and I don't know that I'm really in the mood to do all that. And so what I end up doing is, as I read books that I already own, I add them into my owned tag, and that way at the end of the year, it'll tell me how many books I read that I owned versus ones that I didn't. So that's just something that's very easy and simple to do. Another thing that I love is that I can filter the books that I own, filter my tags, or filter my TBR if I'm in the mood for that by several different things. And so I can filter it by books that I own as, hey, make sure that you give me recommendations for books that I own, or I'm in the mood for books that are under this kind of mood, and they've got quite a few moods that you can pick from. The moods range from adventurous, challenging, dark, emotional, funny, hopeful, informative, inspiring, lighthearted, mysterious, reflective, relaxing, sad, and tense. And that's just based off of what people who are reviewing the books mark those moods as. And I find that that's really helpful for me. If I'm in the mood for something that's dark, then I want books that people have tagged as being dark. Or if I'm in the mood for something that's more lighthearted, but with a specific trope, then I have that option as well. You can also filter it by pace. So if you want something that's more slow paced, medium, or fast paced, then you can pick that. Choosing fiction or nonfiction, you can go into a genre filter, your personal tag filter, the length of the book. You can do ones you own or ones you don't own, books that are part of a series, or even books that are added to your reading challenges. So there are so many different options to filter your next read in a way that makes sense for you, which is what I love so much about StoryGraph. They also have the option to have if you are someone who reads off a TBR, I actually deleted my TBR at the beginning of 2025 and have not looked back. It is so wonderful. I add books sometimes, but I'm actually probably going to delete my TBR again at the beginning of the new year. So that is something that I'm probably going to do. And honestly, it just kind of resets things for me. And I found it really helpful because the books that I was interested in 2020 or 2021 that I had added to my TBR are not books that I'm interested in reading now in the least bit. And so Goodreads was making it extremely difficult to delete my TBR because I had to go page by page by page. And StoryGraph has 2 clicks that you have to do. Maybe it's 3, but it is literally a few clicks that you have to do to delete your TBR entirely. And I just adore that ability to do that. But if you do have a TBR, they have the option that you can have your up next. It can be up to 5 books that, okay, maybe you have 200 books on your TBR, but these are the books, the 5 next books that you want to read. And then you can change the order of those based on what your mood is. So that is really, really cool as well. I am a data girly, whatever, whichever way you want to say data, either way. I like graphs and I like information and I like using that information to make better decisions. And this is honestly the number one selling point for me, even if you're not already sold. If you're someone who likes to track what you're doing, I pay $5 a month for the pro version of StoryGraph. And I like that a lot because one, I'm giving to which I didn't even mention at this point, it is a female founded, BIPOC founded, and run company. And so if you're looking to move away from the Zon and all things affiliated with the Zon, then StoryGraph is a great option, especially if you are sick and tired of the terrible layouts of Goodreads, the fact that they have not updated anything. And they were like, hey, new logo last year. Nobody wanted that. No one wanted it. We wanted a brand new platform, which you did not provide. So goodbye. Anyway, the reason I love to give to StoryGraph rather than Amazon or rather than to Goodreads and keep my reads there is that I know that the people behind StoryGraph genuinely care about the people who are using the product. They genuinely want to make the product better. They are constantly evolving it to make it something that we want. And they have people to quickly make adjustments. So several times I've gone in and I've said, hey, the number of pages that it's showing for this book is actually incorrect. Here's the link to the Amazon page if you want to see what the page number is over there. And that has quickly gotten fixed, which I really, really appreciate. So that I can have the right number of pages that I read available when I'm looking through that information. But back to the data, whatever you want to call it. I love being able to see those custom graphs, and I have quite a few. I'll share them on my Instagram when this episode goes live. But just to give you an idea of some of those custom graphs that I've created, I have book source. And so was the book an ARC? Was it from Libby? Is it one of my paperbacks? Is it Audible? Is it from Kindle Unlimited? Or is it one that I already own digitally? And I found that this was really helpful to determine where I'm spending my money. Like if I'm not reading a lot of books on Audible or if I'm not reading a lot of books on paperback, then I probably should spend less money on Audible and paperback. And so kind of just determining that. The other one is page length. I don't like the graph that they use for page length that comes embedded in the system because I personally feel that under 150 pages is a novella and they have 0 to 300 pages as one category. And I'm like, I don't agree with that. And so I have mine completely different for that reason. Another one is the author overview. So what percentage of the books that I've read are BIPOC author or white or unknown authors, and making sure that my personal ratio of that is what I want it to be, because that is something that's important to me and I want to make sure that I'm reading diversely. And then going into the author representation of the diverse authors that I read, which ones were Black, which ones were Latinx, which ones were Asian, which ones were Indigenous, which ones are trans, which ones are non-binary, like going into all of that. And then I also have a read what you own category because I wanted to make sure that I'm reading more of what I own this year. So I have my digital own and I can kind of see that on a number graph. And I have the paperbacks, so the number of paperbacks that I've read that are my own. And so I can easily just see that information. Now I do have to tag my books as I read them, or usually I just do it at the end of the month before I run my report to see, all right, how am I doing and what are some adjustments that I need to make in the next month. Next, I have character representation. So Black, LGBTQIA+, Latinx, Sapphic, gay, Asian, Indigenous, etc. And then I have other representation, like is there disability rep? How many books did I read with disability rep? And then which books did I read that had mental health rep as well? And then I have a sports breakdown because I'm always curious about how much sports romance I actually read and what categories those are in, which I find interesting. That's just something that I wanted to track. And I'm not really sure why I wanted to track that because looking at my numbers, I've got like 3 football, 3 basketball, 2 F1, and 2 hockey. I do not read a lot of sports romances. Anyway, so those are the graphs that I wanted to create because I wanted something that was unique to what I want to see, but then I also really love the graphs that they provide as well. So to wrap up, what I love about StoryGraph is that it is one, female and BIPOC run, and it allows me to easily create TBRs if that's what I feel like doing around my mood. It helps me decide what I'm going to read next. The community aspect is a bit lacking, but I actually don't mind that. I don't go to my reading trackers for community. I go to social media for community. But it is a cool option if you're someone who's looking at that and you want to see what other people are reading, you want to comment on it, you want to heart it, whatever. They also have, I didn't even get into this and I don't plan on it today, but they have buddy reads and read along. So if you're part of a book club and you want to interact with other people as you're reading the book, that's a great option too. But that is another rabbit hole for another day with someone who actually does those a lot more than I do. Anyway, I love StoryGraph, clearly and obviously. And it's a great place if you are a mood reader or if you're someone who wants to see more information about the books that you're reading, more data, create more graphs around it, then it's a great option as well. So let me know, when are you leaving Goodreads? Because please leave Goodreads and join me over on StoryGraph. I will have the link to join me and friend me, all that fun stuff on StoryGraph in the show notes as well as the YouTube description. And I'm going to be doing some more solo episodes in season 3. So what I need from you is I would love if you sent me topic ideas. What are some things that you are interested in hearing me talk about on the podcast? Maybe it is the last 5 books that I read that I loved, or maybe it's what are the last 5 books you read and would you recommend them? Or maybe it is, hey, can we do a roundup of a specific trope? I'm here for all of that. Yes, please, and thank you. So let me know in the comments. Send me a DM on Instagram. I want to know what episodes you want to hear from me coming in season 3.